there's certain fundamentals without overcomplicating it, which is that I would never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do. There's that book by James Kirk called Legacy, based it around the All Blacks and the high performance culture and them sweeping the changing room after every match, right? So you leave it in a good condition, you don't rely on somebody else to do it. It doesn't matter how good you are, how much you're getting paid, anything like that. So I think when you're driving a higher performance culture, it always starts with the basic fundamentals, like doing well, doing consistently. And I think that's a pretty good starting point. Doesn't matter how good you are. Like, it doesn't matter how good a player you are, how good a recruiter you are, how good you are at marketing, compliance, anything. There's a zero tolerance policy to anyone that doesn't demonstrate the values. It's kind of become our fourth unofficial value. I think it would be impossible to be in such a high pressure job, even if it is just a sales job, if you're never in a threat state, because there are targets, there is a lot of pressure. And I don't think it's such a terrible thing to tip into that from time to time, provided that isn't what you're encouraging and or the environment that you want all the time. And there are obviously a lot of companies in every sector that maybe do want that. But I think living in that challenge state is kind of where you want to be. What I've learned over time is that a lot of people want clarity, like clarity around expectation, like what is the job that I'm doing and how am I going to be measured? You bring somebody into a job and you think it's enough that they can come and figure it out. I think you need that joint agreement that this is what the role is, this is the expectation. Then you've got clarity, and then you're going to measure people against that. And ultimately, if people know what their job is, how they're being measured, they should be allowed a certain amount of autonomy to go away and get it done. The culture is the worst of the behavior you accept. I can set an expectation of what I believe and what the vision is, but culture comes from within. So for me, it's more the qualitative side of the job. Like, don't drop your expectations of how you do things and how you engage with people. Hold each other to account. Let's make sure we've got high standards. And I think if we all manage that culture together and we all look after it, that gives us the best chance possible of making sure it stays there. We had a pretty reasonable 2020 in the end. Felt pretty good after that initial uncertainty when COVID was kicking off. Hopefully reinforced the fact that we had a good team, good client, a good business overall. That kind of saw us through. And we were 30 odd people at that time. And we were getting towards the end of 2020 and we could see the market was turning a bit already. And we took a decision to try and get ahead of the market a little bit actually and see if we could line up some new hires to come in Q1 21. And that worked. Obviously the market went absolutely nuts and that felt like a good decision at the time. And we just carried on hiring. We didn't really change the way that we did the job, but we just kept on hiring people into the business. And we saw a lot of success. Like over that period, as a lot of people did, right? So coming out back of COVID, 21, 22, as crazy as they were brilliant years. The best way to inspire someone is through action and leading by example, whether that's behaviors or anything really. So when there's an opportunity to do that, I still get involved in doing that. I think from a future leader's perspective, it's a bit more difficult, I think. Obviously, we've all seen big billers that get encouraged into leadership and for whatever reason, they might not have the skill set, they might not be given the right sort of framework to be successful, whatever it is. So I don't think it's a given, obviously. Everyone's obviously got their own style, but I mentioned mindset earlier, like it's kind of a given you need people to turn up with the right mindset. I think your mindset has to adjust a little bit when you're going to start taking responsibility for leading people, maybe a bit more empathy than maybe you might have shown otherwise. Like the mindset bit, then you've got the data set bit, which is ultimately the Orbis way. So how does that target operating model drop down to how we develop future leaders? And that's kind of like a non-negotiable. This is the way we do it. This is how we build success. And then there's a skill set bit, and that's where they put their own stamp on it. They put their own kind of personality on it. We've done a little bit of a tweak to our structure. So we've now got global heads in place for each of our functions. So contract and client solutions, which is a team division that we set up 2 years ago. Pure client facing, not just about client acquisition or even client development, although that's a big part of it. It's about how the business and the group as a whole engages with customers and how we optimize the value of that partnership across those different service lines that we've got, like the recruitment, the consulting, search. If we're dealing with senior stakeholders and we've got good relationships, there's no reason why they wouldn't buy those services from one place, essentially, much like a lot of our clients do. It comes back to the whole clarity and roles and responsibilities thing. That then should empower those decisions like we were talking about a minute ago, but also we want to make sure that that group of people is challenging each other on those decisions, right? Like it's not like every decision you have to come to the table and say, oh, look, I'm thinking this, can I do it? But the significant things, we want to be in a room and we want people challenging each other. I say hopefully, because they're probably doing it right. If you're not disagreeing at times, then you're probably not being honest. So I think a little bit of healthy conflict is a good thing as well, right? To challenge ourselves. And ultimately, it all comes back to the shared goal. Whether you're 5 people or 50 people, make sure you've got that structure and that process in place of how you develop people and how we call it in and up, like how you get someone in and how you get them up, and being consistent with it. If you tick those boxes, then I think you're doing well. And then ultimately it comes down to the commitment bit, which people, if they're deciding to do this, probably are lacking that commitment. So before you go kind of all guns blazing, maybe just take a minute to reflect, make sure you got that right support structure, and then go for it.